About 24 states are suing the administration over the dismantling of AmeriCorps.
It's a 30-year-old federal agency designed for volunteer services. The lawsuit alleges that Trump's team illegally gutted the agency through the Department of Government Efficiency, better known as DOGE. Court documents allege DOGE took funds that were granted by Congress, not the White House.
Now, yesterday, White House officials said the agency had misreported over $40 million in 2025, citing insufficient documentation from grantees, calculation errors, and even miscoded expenses.
All right, so let's go ahead and bring in Chief Legal Analyst Khalif Rhodes to talk about this fight and where it could go next. So another case of a lawsuit being filed as Trump was celebrating 100 days in Michigan. So what's in this latest suit?
It's like what we talked about. It's that the Trump administration, specifically during the using the DOGE arm of the executive branch, has went into this agency and attempted to dismantle it. The only problem with that is this agency was created by Congress. I don't want to sound like a broken record, and I hate repeating myself. When I was in class, when I taught class, I hated to be doing that to students, but I wanted it to make sure that it sunk in when I would teach them things. There are three distinct branches of government. I know that it sounds like I'm making this up, but I'm not. The crafters and the founders of our country wanted to ensure that one branch was not, higher than the other. So they are three co-equal branches. We don't have a dictatorship, and we don't have something where the president is above these branches. They're equal for a purpose, so they can balance the others out. If Congress appropriates funds, if Congress appropriates an organization, they draft it, they write it, they create this body, and then they say, go and do that. Only Congress can shut them down. There's no other way around that. Now, the president can, I have to emphasize this, can shut down any agency that is underneath the executive branch. Something like DOGE. If he wanted to shut down DOGE tomorrow, with a strike of a pen, he could say DOGE is done, and there wouldn't even be no lawsuit. There'd be nothing. It'd be gone. But in this regard, he does not have the authority to do this at any capacity. There isn't a capacity for the president to do something called a reorganization. But even that has to be submitted to Congress. You have to submit it to Congress. Congress has to give you authorization, and then you can go and say, you know what, I'm going to reorganize this body that's been created, been running for 30 years. I don't think it's being efficient. That would be a proper use of DOGE. But what they're attempting to do by just terminating and firing, this is something that is outside the scope, and it's going to be hard to roll back a number of these things.
Khalif, you were saying the exact thing that Annie and I were talking about this topic, and it seems like the same thing over and over and over again. We talk about the separation of powers and what the executive branch can do, what Congress can do. Is it almost a game of chicken, Khalif, where the Trump administration is going to try so many of these things and maybe one won't get through, or who's going to give in first? Because it seems like, again, over and over again, the same thing.
100% a game of chicken. Right now, the Trump administration is saying, I dare you. I dare you to attempt to stop me. And I have to say this as well. If no one's had any interaction with the government process, then this is just like, okay, no harm, no foul. They can go back and fix it. Well, it's not that simple. If you've ever applied for a job on USA Jobs, you know it takes like 6 to 7 to maybe 8 months to get a response back. Then you go through the interview process. So then maybe a year later, you got this job you applied for in 2025. Now it's 2026. You don't even really want the job anymore, but that's how long it takes, glacier pace, for the government to hire. So you go out and terminate thousands of people. You go out and terminate contracts. So what do these grantees, what are they missing? Well, this is after school programs. This is stuff to help veterans. These are things that are helping people who are lowest, the people that need the help the most in our community. These volunteers are implanted in these communities. They give them a stipend to live there, to work, to do the jobs that most people don't want to do, because we're here doing this job. So you're not out on the street helping the homeless and feeding veterans that went and served our country. So the government recognized at the time when they created it that there was a need. And we have these resources. Let's connect our need with the resources and get people out there. That's what the purpose of this organization was. And so DOGE goes through and finds $40 million missing. And it's not that it was missing. It was that there was not paperwork that was properly connected to the grantees. Well, anyone that runs a nonprofit recognizes that those types of things happen because these people aren't accountants. Right. They're actually doing the jobs. So if you're a grantee and you've given them a grant, you're expecting that they would hopefully get their paperwork correctly, but making sure that they've done the job is probably the most important part.
Well, so you mentioned that nothing really with the government moves fast, right? So where does this go from here, especially if the funding has already been cut? Where do you see this going, and can it be resolved quickly to maybe get that funding back?
Injunction is the process. I mean, we go through it before. Injunction. Jason's not here, but I know he's smiling if he's hearing us. And so you're talking about irreparable harm, likelihood of success on the merits, and the balancing of the equities and in public interest. Irreparable harm, you can't undo this. And so likelihood of success on the merits, I just gave the argument. Congress has to appropriate these funds. They're already appropriated. They got to give that money back. A judge can give an injunction and say, stop the freeze, stop the cuts, give these people their jobs back and their money back. So that's the anticipated next step here.
All right, our chief legal analyst, Khalif Rhodes, breaking it all down again. A game of chicken between all the branches of government. Khalif, thank you.